on this Thursday night.
Our first thought today is with his family.
A Canadian geologist is killed after being abducted from a mine in Burkina Faso. Why the region is a hotbed of security concerns.
We're going to do a town hall. This is great. This is democracy in action.
With an election just over the horizon, why the Liberal cabinet retreats to Quebec. Plus, At Issue looks at the politics of shuffles and by-elections.
Saw a Range Rover on its side and a car in the hedge.
And Prince Philip walks away from a car collision. He's still driving at the age of 97. This is The National. The motive for his murder is unclear, the killer's unknown, but this much we do know. Halifax-based geologist Kirk Woodman was working in Burkina Faso, and that is a dangerous place to be. 2 days ago, Woodman was snatched at gunpoint from a mining camp. Today, Canada announced his body had been found. And as Catherine Cullen tells us, he's not the first Canadian to come to harm in the region.
Kirk Woodman is being remembered as a kind, dedicated husband and father and respected geologist. CBC spoke to him early in his career.
It's been hard the last few years to find work as a geologist, and things are starting to pick up.
Woodman would go on to spend 20 years doing work in West Africa.
He felt that he had enough insulation around him, that he was in a relatively safe position. At least he seemed to think so.
On Tuesday, he was kidnapped from a mining site and found dead the next day. It's unclear who is responsible or what their motive was.
This is a terrible crime, and Canada is absolutely committed to working with the authorities in Burkina Faso to bring those responsible to justice.
Canada advises against non-essential travel to Burkina Faso due to the threat of terrorism, but several Canadian mining companies operate there. Just a week ago, the UN representative for the area warned of escalating danger from Islamist militants.
The security situation remains worrying, particularly now in Burkina Faso, in Niger, and in the northeast of Nigeria, where we have witnessed a spike in terrorist attacks.
Last month, Quebecer Edith Blais and her Italian travel companion went missing from the country. Canada is treating it as a kidnapping. In 2017, 2 Canadians died during a restaurant attack that killed 18 people. And in 2016, a major terrorist attack killed 6 Quebecers in the country on a humanitarian mission.
There's a great deal of instability.
This former CSIS analyst has advised mining companies going into dangerous parts of the world. He says there are some general rules.
Certainly to not stray too far from where you're supposed to be. If you are going out, make sure that you have a good sense of what the area is. As I say, engage with locals with whom you can trust to the best of your ability. Don't stand out.
Gursky says companies can also pay for expensive, high-level security, but points out no security is absolute.
Always you have to reassess. And again, you have to reassess, is the lucrativeness of the mine worth the potential risk?
Risks that within Burkina Faso continue to grow. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
And before that major attack in 2016 that Catherine mentioned, Burkina Faso had been considered one of the safer countries in a region that has been teetering on the brink. Mali and Niger have been in the grips of escalating violence since 2012. Mali in particular has been a focus for international peacekeepers, including Canadian troops. But nestled between those two countries, security in Burkina Faso has rapidly deteriorated. The north has been dangerous for a while. More than 50,000 people have been displaced by the violence there. But suspected militant attacks have occurred across the country just over the past year, including in the east where Kirk Woodman was killed. There, the government's presence is weak. Terrain is tough, opportunity scarce. It's fertile ground for criminal gangs and now Al-Qaeda and ISIS-linked militants. It's hard to know who is behind any given attack. There are few claims of responsibility. And while foreigners are often targeted, the most frequent victims are local soldiers and police. And Rosemary, the threat to Canadians in Burkina Faso, just one of the issues on the government's mind today.
Yeah, it is still navigating what Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland has described as a, quote, difficult moment with China. The chill in relations remains a month and a half after Canada's arrest of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou, China's subsequent arrest of 2 Canadians, and then the death sentence recently imposed on another. Today, in a rare interview with Canadian journalists, the Chinese ambassador suggests it is possible to repair the relationship. But as Evan Dyer explains, China says it's up to Ottawa to change its approach in a spiraling diplomatic feud.
Liu Shaya stuck to the official Chinese line that the cases of the 3 Canadians are unrelated to the detention of Meng Wanzhou in Canada. Proceedings against them will continue even if Meng is released. But Liu also said China wants a good relationship with Canada, which he said Chinese people view as the most friendly of Western countries. And he walked back comments he made in an op-ed article last week where he suggested Canada's actions were motivated by white supremacy. What we heard from Ambassador Liu Shaya was a mix of carrot and stick, not just bad outcomes that could come if Canada doesn't release Meng, but also positive things Canada can expect if it does. But what was really clear was that China doesn't like Canada appealing to other allies. China will not be isolated in the international community, said Liu, and he urged Canada to stop rallying other nations. He said Canada should think twice before raising the matter at next week's gathering of world leaders in Davos, Switzerland. But Canadian officials see no reason to face a rising superpower alone. Ambassador Liu's counterpart says allies can help Canada get its messages across.
I think one of the main ones is to persuade China, not necessarily through Canadians, through corporate and government leaders from around the world, that this behavior is not in their interest.
Today, Spain joined most other major Western nations in publicly siding with Canada.
There is a large and growing group of allies who share Canada's concerns about the rule of law. And we are grateful to our allies who are speaking out. We think it is very much in their interests to do so.
I think China has allowed the case to develop into not only one of China versus Canada, but China versus the West. The West meaning countries with proper rule of law. And I don't think this is actually in China's interest.
At the very least, the news conference suggested China's leadership is looking for a way out of the impasse, but there's no sign it's found one, and few hopeful signals for the 3 Canadians. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
Obviously, foreign policy not the only concern for the governing Liberals. Justin Trudeau is hunkering down with his newly revamped cabinet to set the course before this fall's federal election. The 3-day retreat is happening in Sherbrooke, Quebec, a location chosen with political strategy very much in mind. Our David Cochran is there.
In many ways, the Liberal road to re-election goes through Quebec, so a good relationship with the new premier can only help.
I won't support any fiddle party.
He may not have convinced Francois Legault.
That's the challenge I have for all of you tonight and over the next 10 months. How we choose to build a better country.
But the Prime Minister spent part of Wednesday night at a fundraiser trying to convince people to give him their money and their vote. A different reception outside the reception, where anti-pipeline protesters mingled with the local MP. They weren't there to make donations.
It's clear for him now that he's not welcome here if he don't come with answers on big issues.
Sherbrooke is in a cluster of ridings the NDP won in 2015, but where the Liberals came a close second and think they've closed that gap. They better hope that's true. The mood in Western Canada grows more ugly as the oil economy struggles. The 2015 sweep of Atlantic Canada is unlikely to be repeated. And Ontario is a wild card now that it's gone Ford Nation. So with the NDP struggling and the Bloc in disarray, Quebec is fertile ground. That's why cabinet minister after cabinet minister held public events and announcements while in Sherbrooke.
And so we are there for people, listening, engaging. The Prime Minister will be in Saint-Hyacinthe. We're going to do a town hall. This is great. This is democracy in action.
This picture is going to be on the front page of every newspaper in the country.
Yes, they are here to work, but politics is part of the job. And you can't hold a cabinet retreat if you don't win the election. David Cochran, CBC News, Sherbrooke, Quebec.
The waving was slightly awkward. As the cabinet met today, a BC by-election controversy continued to play out. Karen Wang was forced to quit as a Liberal candidate just yesterday after comments she made about the ethnicity of her opponent, who happens to be NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. But she says she is not a racist.
I am a Chinese Canadian. I have the Chinese cultural background, and Jagmeet, Mr. Singh, has the Indian background. He is an Indian Canadian. So that's a statement. It's a fact. It's not a racial statement at all. It's
Wang has apologized, and today she asked the Liberals for a second chance to run in Burnaby South, but they turned her down. She now says she's considering running as an independent. So clearly there's a lot for At Issue to unpack tonight. Good thing Andrew, Chantal is back, and Jason Markusoff are all here, and that's coming up a little bit later.
Nancy Pelosi was all set to board a U.S. military flight to Afghanistan today, but just an hour before the Democratic Speaker of the House was due to leave, she ran into an unexpected and partisan headwind. As Paul Hunter reports, it's the latest presidential volley in the increasingly nasty war over the wall.
It was quickly labeled a childish, petulant, passive-aggressive act of pure retribution, courtesy Donald Trump.
It's petty, it's small, it's vindictive, it is unbecoming a president of the United States, but it is unfortunately a daily occurrence.
As government buses today sat idling on Capitol Hill, waiting for a congressional delegation to begin a trip to go visit U.S. troops in Afghanistan, key among those traveling, senior Democrat and Trump foil Nancy Pelosi, the U.S. president today fired off this letter. "I'm sorry to inform you that your trip is being postponed," he wrote, calling it a public relations event that is totally inappropriate. In short, Trump denied Pelosi use of military aircraft. Wrote Trump, Pelosi could always go by flying commercial.
We need strong borders.
Yes, it all comes back to Trump's demand for that border wall, something he repeated again today. A singular demand that's forced the partial government shutdown that's left hundreds of thousands of U.S. government workers without pay for nearly a month. Trump won't end it unless Democrats agree to fund an extension of the existing border wall, something they see as an ineffective, wasteful way to secure the border. With the two sides dug in on that, Pelosi took a dramatic step yesterday, all but uninviting Trump to this month's big State of the Union address. This is last year's address. Trump's move today is widely seen as payback for Pelosi trying to take this kind of spotlight away from him. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham today called both Pelosi and Trump sophomoric, as frustration in an ever more dysfunctional U.S. government grew broadly.
Forget games. Forget petty games. Let's sit down and open the government up. There are real people suffering.
In his letter to Pelosi, Trump underlines that given the shutdown, she should be staying in Washington anyway, trying to resolve it. Democrats quickly pointed out the White House was sending a sizable delegation to the upcoming World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. So who's to talk about staying in D.C.? When that came out, the White House then promptly issued a notice saying it was abruptly canceling U.S. participation in Davos. And so it goes.
And while this back and forth was going on, Paul, as always, the Russia file never far from the surface. What's going on there?
Yeah, this is a weird one. How many times have you heard, Donald Trump and or his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, say there's been no collusion with Russia, right? Well, last night on CNN, Giuliani seemed to hedge on that, seeming to suggest Trump did not, but that maybe the Trump campaign did collude. All the while, he challenged the host over whether Trump himself had ever even denied that his campaign had colluded. You got all that? Here's a bit of how it all went down.
The president did not.
He said nobody had any contact. Tons of people had contact. Nobody colluded. The guy running his campaign.
He didn't say
was
nobody.
Working on an issue at the same time as the convention.
He said he didn't. He didn't say nobody. How would you know that nobody in your campaign?
He actually did say that, Rudy. He said
well,
nobody, and then he said, as far as I know.
He said it in a. Well, as far as he knows, that's true.
Who knows why Giuliani said all that last night? Does he know something that might soon be made public. Regardless, today he walked it all back. In a statement, Giuliani said, quote, "I have no knowledge that anyone on the campaign illegally colluded with Russia." Ian, we'll see what happens next.
Thank you, Paul.
A car accident in which no one was hurt doesn't often make the news here in Canada, especially if it happened thousands of kilometers away. But this crash is making headlines around the globe tonight because of who was behind the wheel. As Thomas Degla tells us, the Duke of Edinburgh went out for a drive, then walked away from a wreck.
With an SUV overturned onto the driver's side, there's no question this crash would have been harrowing, especially considering that driver is 97 years old. One of the vehicles was so badly damaged it had to be taken away in the back of a truck. Yet somehow, Prince Philip walked away unharmed. The other car's driver and passenger were treated in hospital. Police said, "We can confirm both drivers were breath tested and provided negative readings."
Quite a bit of debris on the road. We all had to move into the centre of the road and go past slowly. Saw a Range Rover on its side and a car in the hedge.
The crash occurred near the Sandringham estate, where the Queen and Philip have been staying since the holidays. The royals attended Christmas Mass at Sandringham, but the Duke of Edinburgh skipped the event. He officially retired in 2017 and only rarely shows up in public, like last fall at his granddaughter Princess Eugenie's wedding. One thing Philip never gave up was driving. He famously picked up Barack and Michelle Obama on a visit to Windsor Castle.
I have to say I have never been driven by a Duke of Edinburgh before, and I can report that it was very smooth riding.
His son, Prince Charles, though, apparently isn't so amused. He was once heard worrying that his father insists on driving. Even when he's not behind the wheel, Philip apparently likes to lead the way. And after this incident, the family may say it's time to give up the driver's seat. The result could have been much worse. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, London.
Here are some other stories we're watching tonight. A Toronto woman has been found guilty of terror charges linked to an attack at a Canadian Tire in 2017.
This was an unusual prosecution, an unusual litigation in the sense that Ms. Dugmosh she chose not to retain counsel.
Rahab Dugmosh admitted to going after workers with a golf club and a butcher's knife, motivated by a desire to help ISIS. She was also convicted of leaving Canada for the purpose of committing a criminal offense. That's in connection with her 2016 attempt to join ISIS in Syria.
We have arrested 2 individuals whom we have very strong reasons to believe facilitated the attack.
Those arrests are in connection to Tuesday's terrorist attack at an upscale hotel complex in Nairobi. Police say the men are helping with their investigation. At least 26 people were killed, including 5 attackers. It was a coordinated strike at several sites around the compound. The Somali group Al-Shabaab, which has affiliations with Al-Qaeda, has claimed responsibility for the attacks.
Ahead tonight on the National, Olympic snowboarder Max Perot reveals he's stepping away from competition to face a new challenge, his health.
And an unexpected bathroom break leaves a 72-year-old pilot stranded on a frozen lake for more than 2 days. His rescue is tonight's moment.
Well, we're going to stick around for that. First, though, a marketplace investigation puts those popular Ancestry DNA tests to the test. Who better than Charlie Agro and her identical twin sister?
What? 30
Russia,
French and German. What?
Oh, I don't have that.
You don't have that at all?
No.
The Bears are back, waiting here for the ice to form on Hudson Bay and their new seal hunting season to begin. So once again, Churchill's Bear Patrol is on 24-hour alert. But it's a costly business keeping curious bears and curious people apart. And Manitoba wildlife officials decided this year, reluctantly, that they must shoot any bears that persist in scavenging the town dump or menacing the community. But enter now Brian Davis, international animal crusader, with a plan to raise $20,000 or $30,000 to save those bears.
Why is it important? It's important to me because I think these are magnificent wild creatures. There's no need to destroy them, really. If we want to take the trouble to move them out of this area and cope with the problems that we've created in this area, then the animals can be allowed to live. And I think that they're pretty wonderful creatures and should be allowed to live.
How are you going to raise the money to do this?
We expect to have a lot of exposure of this particular operation, the initial part of it, and I will be traveling through Canada and Europe and the US, attempting to raise money to complete the operation, which we think may cost somewhere in the region of about $20,000.
The first of the problem bears was shipped out this weekend, watched by an international press corps, armed with a $600 one-way ticket to happier hunting grounds 200 miles down the coast. Brian Davies can have all of the troublesome bears if he can move them out. He's off to Europe this week to find out if the world's animal lovers are as concerned for Canada's delinquent bears as they were for our baby seals. Colin Holt, CBC News, Churchill.
This one actually says Poland. Mine doesn't. Mine does. What? Yeah. Look.
One set of twins, two different ancestry profiles. At least that's the suggestion from one of the world's largest ancestry DNA testing companies. Consumer ancestry tests have become hugely popular over the past few years, but how accurate are they? This week, our colleagues at Marketplace put 5 of the top-selling kits to the test. Here's Charles Liagro with what they found.
Big surprise was we're not German at all.
Know how your DNA connects you to the world.
DNA testing kits make some pretty specific promises. Learn who you really are and where you came from.
You can pinpoint specifically?
Right. Step 1.
All from a sample of your spit or a simple swab.
I feel like I'm on Law & Order. Yeah, CSI.
To test the accuracy of some of the most popular Ancestry DNA kits on the market, my sister Carly and I took 5 tests. Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, MyHeritage DNA, Family Tree DNA, and Living DNA.
Okay.
Identical twins have nearly identical DNA, so the results should be the same.
What? Russia. 39% Eastern Europe and Russia. No way. What is yours?
Did you get
the exact same?
We didn't get the same ancestry results from any of the companies, but some of the differences were bigger than others.
French and German. What?
Oh, I don't have that.
You don't have that at all?
No.
So the fact that they present different results for you and your sister, I find very mystifying.
Results that left a group of Yale computational biologists shaking their heads.
There's just nothing to say. You're twins. We think the numbers should be spot on the same.
Okay. Why would Carr be more Eastern European than I would if our DNA is the same?
No, she's not. I mean, there's nothing to say. You and your twin sister have the same genetic ancestry, end of day. I mean, there's nothing to say. I mean, that's the truth.
How is the Yale team so sure? Well, they analyzed the raw data each company extracted from the samples. The 23andMe data came out statistically identical.
Agreement between you and your sister is 99.6%, 99.7% agreement.
Some of the biggest differences in our results came from 23andMe. When we asked the company how we could get such different results, given our DNA is so similar, the company said even those minor variations can lead their algorithm to assign different ancestry estimates.
It's never a 100% sure thing.
It's why critics, including population geneticist Simone Gravel, suggest taking your results with a grain of salt and not to heart.
These specific percentages are, should not be interpreted as like definitive, like here's your percentage ancestry from this place. Like that's not that.
No.
Yeah. The only ones where we can kind of interpret them like this are the continental level.
Humans share more than 99% of the same DNA, so we're actually a lot more alike than we are different. Charles Liagro, CBC News, Toronto.
You can watch the full Marketplace investigation tomorrow night on CBC Television. That starts at 8 p.m., 8:30 in Newfoundland.
Up next on The National, At Issue tackles the high stakes of the by-election in Burnaby South. Andrew Chantal and Jason Markusoff are here with their thoughts.
And a little later in tonight's Moment, an unexpected pit stop leaves a 72-year-old pilot stranded for days.
Stay calm. That was the main thing that I kept telling myself. Don't panic, don't get in a big rush, and just take it slow and easy, and that's what I did.
This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs.
No, it's nothing like that. Fentanyl is a powerful synthetic opioid. Basically, it's a painkiller like morphine, but a lot of people are taking it recreationally.
The latest person to die is a 17-year-old.
Traffickers adding fentanyl to everything.
Fentanyl, that's the drug that contributed to his death.
It's being called a nationwide disaster.
This is enough to kill a person. So how exactly does it do that? A lot of how drugs affect people is how fast they get into the brain and how much gets in. Fentanyl's good at both. Your brain has things called opioid receptors, those normally taken chemicals your own brain makes to help you when you're, say, running a marathon. But fentanyl bypasses that system, floods the receptors, killing pain and easing anxiety. But fentanyl has side effects. For one, dopamine's released more easily. Dopamine's associated with reward, so it makes you feel really, really good. Drug users like that side effect, but other side effects can kill you quickly. Remember those opioid receptors? Well, you also have them in your brainstem. When those receptors get flooded, they tell the body to slow down its breathing. And because fentanyl is great at getting a lot of chemical into the brain really fast, those receptors can get overloaded easily. Too much chemical and the body turns off its natural breathing reflex. Breathing can stop within seconds. The person goes unconscious, and without help, they die.
There's a new drug on Canadian streets so deadly it's being compared to a chemical weapon. It's called carfentanil, a highly toxic man-made opioid that's 4,000 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than its chemical cousin, fentanyl. But unlike fentanyl, which is a legitimate painkiller, carfentanil isn't for use in humans. It's for tranquilizing animals, big ones like bears and elephants. You know the stuff in the darts? Carfentanil. Like other opioids, carfentanil can dangerously lower your heart rate and breathing, and it doesn't take much to do it. In powdered form, carfentanil can look a lot like table salt, but it's so strong that ingesting, injecting, or inhaling a single grain can be fatal. To put it into perspective, a single kilogram can kill 50 million people. That's everyone in Canada and then some. To make things worse, even inadvertent contact can cause an overdose. That means it's dangerous not only for drug users, but anyone who comes into contact with it. First responders, doctors, border control agents. That's why these Mounties put on hazmat suits when they intercepted a package in Vancouver. It's also why law enforcement in Ohio carry antidote sprays for use on themselves. So why is it popping up on streets now? Well, police say dealers are using it to cut other drugs like heroin and cocaine because it's cheap and easy to get. It's even turned up in these counterfeit Oxycontin pills seized in Ontario, so drug users don't even know what they're getting sometimes. Stopping the supply is gonna be a challenge. Experts say that the drug is entering North America from China, where it's unregulated, legally manufactured, and openly sold online. Are safe injection sites an answer? What about easier access to antidotes like naloxone? Tell us what you think in the comments.
Here are some of the stories we're watching tonight. Toronto police are asking the public for information in a New Year's Day attack that left a man seriously injured. And a warning, the images may be disturbing to some of you.
See
At this point, that blue Dodge Charger that pulls out and around what I believe to be an Uber stop there, there was a verbal interaction between them.
The situation escalates when the victim, David Shelnut, picks up a bag of garbage and throws it at the car. The men got out of the vehicle and start fighting with Shelnut. One suspect knocks him to the ground while another hits him as he was unconscious on the sidewalk. Shelnut was in a coma, but investigators say he's now recovering and is able to talk and walk about.
He said to me, "Oh, I can't give you change." So he said, "But do you have debit?"
And that's how hundreds of people in Toronto fell victim to an ongoing taxi fare scam. Using customized machines and sleight of hand, the drivers were able to swap out the customer's debit card with a fake, and after getting them to input their PINs and copying them, drain the bank accounts of unsuspecting passengers. Toronto police have arrested 5 people. They now face more than 250 charges for identity theft. Harvey Weinstein's lawyer will no longer represent the movie producer in his criminal defense. Benjamin Brafman filed court documents today. Weinstein faces 5 felony charges, which include 2 counts of predatory sexual assault and 1 count of first-degree rape. In a joint statement, Weinstein and Brafman say the split is amicable. Weinstein is expected to announce his new legal team next week.
I think that when it comes to politics, we should always be finding ways to bring people together. So any sort of message that is dividing people, and particularly dividing them along racial lines, is not the type of politics that we want.
Prime Minister frankly failed to condemn her comments today, and that was disgusting.
Recently, I have been labeled as a racist, and which really, really makes me hurt. And I feel like I am abused and I am insulted, and this is not me at all.
We rarely pay this close attention to a by-election, but of course the stakes are very high in Burnaby South. And with the Liberal candidate forced out, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh may have gotten the break he finally needed here. So what's next in this by-election race? It's also been a week full of surprises. There was a cabinet shuffle earlier in the week too. Thankfully, At Issue is here. Chantal Hébert is back and she's in Montreal. Andrew Coyne is in Toronto, and Jason Markusoff is in Vancouver and joins us tonight. Good to see everybody. Let's start with the by-election, just because it's kind of a strange story still unfolding today. The candidate Karen Wang now saying that defending herself, saying what she said was misinterpreted because the message was in Chinese and we didn't read that properly. Chantal, what do you make of her response and I guess the government's response to say very quickly, you're out of here?
I'll go to the Liberal response rather than just the government. I think what we saw this week was a clear lack of adult supervision. And I am not a conspiracy theorist, so I don't buy the notion that the Liberals set their candidate up for failure so that they could lose the riding. But it does show that they are not paying a lot of attention to trying to beat Jagmeet Singh. And I will compare that with what I see in my backyard in Outremont, Thomas Mulcair's riding, which is also in play on the same day, and where the signs are already out with pictures of the Prime Minister. You can tell where the Liberal attention is focused in this set of by-election. It's not in winning Burnaby South and beating Jagmeet Singh, it's in taking away Thomas Mulcair's Outremont riding, which has iconic value for the NDP.
For sure, and for the Liberals too. So I guess there were a couple of things that happened with this particular candidate. The provincial Liberals say that they warned the federal Liberals about her. The Conservatives said they looked at her and said no. So there were lots of warning signs there, I guess, Andrew. What does it tell us about the shape of the by-election, though? I mean, surely this is, even if the Liberals replace this woman, and they intend to, surely it's good news for Jagmeet.
Oh yeah, I mean, it would look. He was already looking good. There was a poll that came out that showed him in first place, so we'll see how that plays out. But what amuses me, I guess, is the Liberals are shocked to discover there's ethnic politics going on. Certainly what this candidate said was objectionable, but what's really objectionable is the actual practice that she was describing, which everybody in politics does, everybody in politics knows is what goes on, that if you have a riding with a heavy concentration of whichever ethnic group it may happen to be, you pick a candidate, if you possibly can, who's from that group, and that's a big part of the selling point. And indeed, there's people who would go beyond that and say not only is that practical politics, but it's admirable in policy terms, that people can only really be represented by people from their own a racial or ethnic group. So for people to then turn around and pile on her, her main crime was saying out loud, which you're not supposed to say out loud. You're supposed to just do it and not say it. And if you do say it out loud, then everybody in the other parties, hyperventilates and pretends to be outraged, which I guess is also what you do in politics.
Chantal, I'll let you jump in because I can see you want in before I go to Jason.
No, but Andrew is right. In theory, your name speaks for itself, and it sends the message that you want to send. And it is true that if you can play these kind of politics, you do it when you select your candidate. And there are plenty of MPs who are issued from that perspective. That being said, to the premise that people vote for their own rather than vote for others has been proven wrong in a variety of ridings across this country, including ridings like Romeo Saganache, where an Indigenous MP has been representing a very Francophone riding for almost a decade now.
Okay, so how do you read this, Jason? How do you think this changes things, if it does?
I think this actually, in a way, winds up looking bad for Jagmeet Singh either way. I mean, Liberals, there's always been, the fact that there's even this rumor that, or speculation that Liberals wanted to throw this almost makes Jagmeet Singh look worse. Should he win now, and it does seem likely that he'll win, given it already was, but given the disarray, the Liberals will be able to boast, and some of the Jagmeet Singh's internal critics, of which there are many, will be able to say, yeah, but he only won because the Liberals completely blew themselves up. That's a bad position for him. The very fact that we're even talking about, does this mean that the NDP leader can win a by-election for his own seat, speaks very, very poorly of Jagmeet Singh's potential in this situation, this poor lot that he's in.
Before we predict an outcome, I think it would be wise to see who the Liberal candidate will be. We've had by-elections that have had mishaps and candidates replaced, and the party that did replace a candidate did end up winning. So I don't think you can draw the automatic conclusion that the next Liberal candidate, I'm assuming there will be one, will not be a better candidate than the one that has been lost this week.
But I went out to interview him yesterday, and we're doing research about it and stuff. And he's certainly not the only leader to go to get into the House through a by-election in a riding that is not his own. So did we have these conversations before, Andrew? Is this something that is proper to him given his own struggles, or every time this happens, do we talk about it like this?
Well, he's got himself into this thing because of the way in which he's conducted himself as leader. I mean, the party itself has broad problems that are not going to go away in terms of their positioning versus the Liberals. But he's got himself to a position where large sections of the party would like him gone. I mean, they're quite frank about it. I was struck by the public remarks of the previous leader, Tom Mulcair, over the last few days, which were just stinging. I mean, they were couched in reasonably diplomatic things, but you didn't have to parse them very much to see that he was basically denouncing his own leader, and he spoke for many people in the party. So even if he wins the riding, I'm not sure he's necessarily out of the woods. The knives are half out already.
And he didn't want this sort of asterisk with his win.
Yes, no, clearly. I did ask him about those Tom Mulcair comments. He was more graceful than I would have been in response to them. Anyway, let's talk about the cabinet shuffle earlier this week. Really, just the one move I think that merits the most attention. All of them are interesting, but this one in particular because it's really seen as a demotion by Jody Wilson-Raybould from Minister of Justice to Veterans Affairs. Have a listen to her right after the swearing in.
I can think of no world in which I would consider working for our veterans in Canada as a demotion.
We heard rumblings in the past few months that you might be shuffled because of a performance issue.
Well, I can't imagine where you've been hearing that.
Well, in a lot of different places in Ottawa, I can tell you that. A couple of things that I think are worth noting. First of all, no one is suggesting that Veterans Affairs in itself is unimportant, but I think the suggestion is that this was the job she wanted to keep, and she didn't get to keep it. That's why it's a demotion. And then writing that missive later that day, where she went through her accomplishments as Justice Minister and talked about some of the other things around reconciliation were interesting. Chantal, what did you make of that? What does that tell us about what's going on inside Cabinet or how it might be working or not working?
Well, setting a bit of political correctness aside, there is no doubt that the Veterans Affairs portfolio is less central to the activities of the government and the justice portfolio.
Of course, yeah. It's a smaller
and that
one,
has
too,
been true in the past, and it will be true in the future.
Sure.
I did not expect Ms. Wilson-Raybould, if the Liberals won the next election, to be reconducted to justice or even to as senior a portfolio. We have all heard the frictions between the PMO and the former Justice Minister. It wasn't working out terribly well, at least the relationship between the centre and the minister. I was surprised that it would happen before the election. I frankly expected her to survive until after the next election, and I'm not too sure whether it happened because the Prime Minister or the senior people in his office felt that they had an opportunity and they just couldn't resist making that move.
Yeah, it's unclear whether it was just because the opportunity presented itself or whether there was something that led to this, something in particular that has not emerged yet, but that's not to say it's not true. Andrew, how do you read it in terms of what it says about the government and how the cabinet is operating?
Well, first of all, it once again shows all power basically resides within the Prime Minister's office. So we always parse these cabinet shuffles out for the deeper meanings of who's in which job, but ultimately the only job that really matters is the Prime Minister and the people around him. In this case, you know, I'm not privy to the private conversations, but you hear two schools of thought, one of which is that she wasn't a particularly good manager of her department, that there were appointments that went unfilled, there were turnover among staff, et cetera. The other is that she wasn't sufficiently laudatory of the Prime Minister and the government and all their works for Indigenous people. And the truth is probably some combination of the two, but what's common to both of them is the notion that this was just another move in that she was taking on another portfolio, it was not a demotion, and she was thrilled and the Prime Minister was thrilled with her work, is some of the theater that people in politics are required to go through every day. And this was a particularly both saccharine and hypocritical display of it.
Well, except she did put that letter out, which was highly unusual,
yes.
and I would have expected the Prime Minister's office then to fire back in some, you know, senior official says way, but that didn't happen either. So there does seem to be an acknowledgement that she needs to stay in cabinet, that they want her around. They just don't want her to have the kind of power, I guess, that they felt she wielded. Jason, you want to weigh in there?
And so much of the art of cabinet making, especially these days, is about signals and symbolism. Sure. You want to make sure you have, Trudeau's made sure he wants that gender balance. He wanted to make sure he had a Nova Scotia representative, so he installed somebody in rural economic development, and he wanted to make sure the rural flank is covered. He sent a pretty lousy message to the Indigenous community, which he's been trying to reconcile with and take strides towards working with. In this, you've seen quite a few Indigenous leaders, Indigenous lawyers, really upset by this and saying this is very discouraging.
But I mean, I've heard those and seen those things too, but it does not take away from the message that the government still believes this to be important. I mean, why would all of that message that was there before, why did all of that reside within a minister who happens to be of Indigenous descent or a minister who's very capable, like Minister Philpott? Why does all of that have to be there?
I mean, in the same way, why do we care about gender balance in cabinet? This is a signal he's sending. This is a political move. Every cabinet selection winds up being, you know, full of political symbolism because we wind up talking about the cabinet ministers more when they get picked than when they actually do anything in most cases.
It's the combination in this case of Jody Wilson-Raybould's move, but also of putting Seamus O'Regan in to Indigenous Affairs, who was not a particularly bright light when he was at Veterans. I guess there was a fairly high priority in getting him out of there because veterans in the run-up to the election could be something that could really cause them some grief. But they move him into Indigenous, and basically that says that file is on hold for the next 8 months.
Okay, thanks everybody, appreciate it. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast, for extra content. This week, we're going to talk about the politics of secession and some of the lessons Canada can and maybe should take away from Brexit. Look for it on iTunes, any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/The National.
And up next on The National, Olympic snowboarder Max Perot opens up about a medical diagnosis that's putting his competitive career on hold.
When I heard the word dying, it definitely got me, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely not going to push the treatment away.
But first, a look at an issue we're going to tackle next week on The National. It's one I need more of, and you too. How much sleep do you get every night? Canadians are getting less and less. I'm sure you already know that. So Duncan McHugh will explore how that could have a serious impact on our health.
All right, come on in, Duncan.
This is how it begins. My journey into the world of sleep to understand why we can't do without it.
60% of Canadians don't get the sleep that they need or the sleep that they want. It's quite a big number.
That's a huge number. That over half of us are not getting as much sleep as we want.
That's right.
Fogel is halfway through a 4-year research project uncovering connections between sleep and memory.
And a lot of what sleep is good for has to do with memory. People are really gaining a lot of interest in this because there seems to be so much about sleep. The more we do study this, the more we find how there's just so many aspects of sleep that are involved in memory processing.
Is this a pleasure or what to introduce to you again Dr. B.B. King? Riley B. King is his real. Change your name for show business.
Yes. I was a disc jockey for about 5 years, and they used to call me the Bill Street Blues Boy. And people stopped calling me the Blues Boy and just say B.B. And now when you say Riley, I have to look around and see who you're talking about.
Well, it's certainly not on your guitar strap. That's to keep reminding you, and so does this. Look at this beautiful ring.
Oh,
that reminds you, too.
That's a gift. My boss at that time was named Jules Bahari, and he had JB on his, and I used to bug him every year.
For a bottle of scotch.
No, finally he gave it to, had a ring made for me, this was in '52. Had a ring made for me and a royalty check record company. Not very much royalties, but the ring, so I still have
the ring you like. Dr. King, this is from Yale University not so long ago.
Yeah, May 17th.
You are only the second musician, I think, to be so honored.
Right.
The other being?
Duke Ellington.
Mm-hmm. You're happy with that?
I shake whenever I think about it.
Thrill is gone.
Canada's Max Parrot flies high as one of the world's best snowboarders. But last month, he was brought down to earth by a sobering diagnosis. He's being treated for Hodgkin's lymphoma, a form of cancer. And today, he told the world what he's going through. The CBC's Alison Northcott was there.
Moves like this made Max Parrot a decorated athlete. This silver medal in Pyeongchang was one of Canada's first at the 2018 Winter Olympics.
Our new gold medalist.
He's considered the most successful athlete ever in the big air event at the X Games. But today, the 24-year-old says he's leaving the fast-paced world of competition for now.
I've been diagnosed with the Hodgkin lymphoma. It's been hard news to take for me, my family, and friends. It was very hard to digest.
After his diagnosis a few days before Christmas, Parrot started 6 months of chemotherapy, forcing him to put his career on hold. But so dedicated to his sport, he first asked his doctor if the treatment could wait.
So I can go competing, you know, because I love competing. But yeah, so she explained me what cancer actually is, and that if you don't treat it, you actually die in the end. So when I heard the word dying, it definitely got me, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely not gonna push the treatment away.
Hodgkin's lymphoma in young adults has a 96% survival rate. Parrot is determined to not only recover, but compete again, too.
He's shown over time with the X Games and the Olympics that he's able to tackle big challenges and perform the way he wants.
Max is Max, so he can do whatever he wants in life, and when he wants something, he gets it.
That drive began when he bought his first snowboard at the age of 9, and it's what helped him achieve this.
1, 2, 3, 4. That was a quadruple underflip, folks!
The first one ever in competition. As Parrot faces a new challenge, people are rooting for him.
Stay strong, buddy. We're here for you, you know. We always been here for him.
I will only focus on this challenge for this year. And the positive thing in all of this is that the doctor told me that I can stay active. And actually, the more active that I stay, the better it is.
He hopes to be back on his board competing again next year. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
And Parrot can take encouragement from the impressive record of high-performance athletes who were treated for Hodgkin's lymphoma and then made triumphant returns to competition. James Conner was a rising college football star until a diagnosis of Hodgkin's lymphoma kept him on the bench.
When I heard I got cancer, you know, I was a little scared, you know, but fear is a choice.
I think it's important he continue to work out, and after the first couple of weeks of treatment, he'll be able to get back to weightlifting. Right now wouldn't be a good idea.
The treatments left him cancer-free. The continual training meant he was back on the field in top shape within 9 months.
It's like the first day of the rest of his life. I'm so excited and just so blessed and happy and thankful. He's healthy.
It only got better when Conner was later drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was a similar story for Canadian hockey great Mario Lemieux. He was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma and took a year off to recover from treatment.
This is not a hockey issue. It is a health issue.
Mario Lemieux.
Lemieux returned, of course, to continue a Hall of Fame career.
Our moment of the day is next, and for many, I'm sure, it would be a scary moment, but a Manitoba pilot took it all in stride.
Anyway, I took a couple of pictures of the airplane and was kind of glad to be there because it was a nice sunny day and everything. Went to start it, couldn't start it.
How he coped with being stranded.
The $300, you're getting $700 for a $60 piece of junk.
These people take their monopoly seriously, as is only proper. For 2 days, they circled the board, buying Tennessee, building houses on Pennsylvania, going to jail, taking free rides, and most of all, making deals. They were trying unsuccessfully to beat this fellow, the man in yellow, David Brooks. He won his third successive Canadian championship.
Aren't you getting a little old for this?
No, I enjoy it each time I play.
I don't think I've played Monopoly probably for 20 years. I think people think, you know, that's something you leave up at the cottage. It's getting a little moldy.
That's how I've been feeling lately about it too. But every time the World Championship comes around, it creates more interest, and I start playing it again.
Now, how do you play this? Really viciously? Are you ruthless and cruel?
Most of the time, I just don't give away something for nothing, and if I have to deal, then they're going to come to me for their best deal.
So your personality changes?
Yeah, it does. It's different before the game starts, and it's the same before the game starts as it is after the game is over.
Yeah.
So,
But while you're playing, you're a robber baron.
yeah.
Oh, boy. Now, how do you do this? Does anything go in Monopoly?
No, there's a lot of property on the board that I won't buy. I don't even
Like
get
what?
involved in.
What's garbage?
What's garbage? The greens.
Pacific
Okay.
Avenue, Pennsylvania, okay.
In a short game or with the minimal amount of money that you start with, you'll never get enough money to properly build them up and win the game with them. Most people get them in trades, and then, you know, they end up with a set.
Now,
But
Bill
it's-
Cameron, who thinks he's the best Monopoly player champion in the world, I think you play him sometime. He swears by what? New York Avenue, Tennessee Avenue, and St. James Place.
That's a good Monopoly to have. People land on them a lot. And the rent, the houses is not that expensive to build. They're only $100 a piece. So most of the time you have cash to develop them, which is the whole idea.
What about Boardwalk and Park Place?
Number one.
You gotta have
You
that.
gotta have those.
With mega hotels,
I'd rather have them
houses.
on my side than worrying about landing on them, because they're the only two properties on the board that with one roll of the dice, someone is out of the game.
What about
you
railroad?
land on Bill's set there,
You can still
you always
survive.
have survival money.
What about the railroads and the utilities?
I don't buy them either.
You don't buy railroads
No,
and
they go
utilities?
up for auction each and every time I land on them. The only time I'll buy a railroad is if someone has 3 and it's the 4th one. I will buy it and then sell it to him for, you know, he'll be interested.
How do you win the Canadian Championship 3 times in a row? I mean, basically, you figure it's all luck. You either roll them or you don't. You go to jail.
Well, I think the difference between me and the other players is other players will sit and watch 2 people make a deal. And it doesn't involve them, so they'll just watch what happens and let the 2 people deal. But anytime 2 people deal, I'm paying 2 rents.
I'm not lending you any money. What happened to all those gigs that you used to do?
I blew the last of my savings on my Rude Guy t-shirts. I'll sell you this one if you want it. 30 bucks, 40, no, 50.
No, you keep going up.
$60.
Oh, Gerald, don't you know not to question the... what do you call it with the strings on the Pinocchio guys?
Puppeteer.
Not the word I was looking for, but yeah, Janet's the puppeteer and we're all her little...
Puppets.
You get it. Marionette! Marionette.
Kim's Convenience, Tuesdays at 8 on CBC.
You know, sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches, like when you're a pilot who needs a bathroom break and you end up getting stranded, and that actually happened to a 72-year-old Manitoba man. 17 wouldn't be a big deal. He's 72. Gerald Bednarek, known to his friends as Hap, was stuck for more than 2 days, and his moment of adventure is our moment of the day.
I was going up to Sissab Lake to visit some friends. I looked over to the west, and 4 miles over was Pickerel Lake, and the sun was shining over the lake. So I thought, I'll go over there. So I landed there and shut the airplane off because I was going to put some gas in it. It's kind of a finicky little guy to get going, and I couldn't get it started. There's no electrics on, so you have to hand prop it. I did that for about an hour and a half, and then I was getting kind of played out doing that, and I thought I better get to shore and get a fire going. So I had this engine tent. I put some stuff on there and I tied a rope to it and dragged it to shore and built a fire and was there for 52 hours.
So what did you think when you heard the herc?
That was the nicest sound I ever heard in my life.
I mean, it's wonderful that he, you know, managed to survive and everything, but just to reiterate the point to viewers that he pulled over to take a pee.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to do that, and clearly he doesn't have a plan to do it in flight. Let's not underestimate, 72 years old, as you pointed out, more than 2 days and nights out in the cold, not sure if and when he'd be found, and Canadian Forces Hercules, that's the hurt that he talked about. Have you ever spent 2 days and 2 nights in the wilds of Manitoba waiting for someone to rescue you?
I don't even like camping, so I feel like I would not have survived as long as Hap. Like, I don't know, he must have had food with him. I'm not sure how all that played, but he just set up a shelter and he said, I'm going to wait and hope for the best.
Yeah, and let me read something he said to our reporter, his kind of mantra: stay calm, don't get into a big rush, just take it slow and take it easy, which basically is your mantra too. So
yeah, it's basically the mantra of the show.
That's right, and that is the national for January 17th. Take it easy. Good night.
Good night.